It's no wonder we're miserable in that structure. That's not the way we're made to live. We're made to live in service, but in the process, we surrender our souls. That's not a cost I'm willing to pay, and you shouldn't be willing to pay it either. Living in comfort and not offending people is not a part of living a Christian life. We are not intended to be these meek and small, pathetically passive beings. We are called into the world to be strong and courageous and forthright with our belief and our faith in our God. So we have to live with courage and find His standard of living and live true to that, and let go of this pursuit of endless materialism and money at all costs, because it's killing us. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Order Within. I'm your host, Brandon Ward. Continuing the pivot, episode 101. Last episode was episode 100. Made an announcement that I'm shifting the content towards biblical and God-focused on the channel moving forward. So for those of you that are sticking around and staying along for the journey, I really appreciate that. For those of you that decided to not, I guess you're not here, so what's the matter to you? The world that we currently live in has certain standards of success, mainly focused on materialism and money. What I want to talk about in today's episode is the problems of that and shifting to a different standard of living, a godly standard of living, and what that may mean for us. Now, this has all been driven by my latest readings of the Bible. I'm in the Old Testament right now. I'm in Deuteronomy right now. What's really stood out to me regarding reading the Bible so far, particularly the Old Testament, I'm excited to get into the New Testament, but the Old Testament is pretty savage in terms of the strength, the veracity of God, Moses' relationship with God, the stories that are told in these first few books of the Old Testament. And it's made me realize just how wrong and out of alignment our modern society is. And so knowing that, the focus of this episode is about looking at the current culture as it is and then applying a standard of godliness to how we can live our lives as opposed to the way the world is pushing us, which is driven by materialism and money and success. That's the ultimate component of what the world pushes us to do in today's society. So we're going to talk about a few of these different things. First of that is going to be the modern standards of success, which is basically money and power. That's effectively the standards of success that we have today. It doesn't matter the quality of your character. It doesn't matter how you treat people. It doesn't matter how you care for your neighbors, your family, your loved ones. All that matters is, do you make a lot of money? Are you successful? Do you have an interesting position of power? Do you have an interesting career? Well, if that's the case, then you're okay by society standards. Then you fit in. You're great. The drive for money and power is all you have to pursue. Being a good human being, helping other people, being of service, being kind, doing things out of the goodness of your heart, that's weakness. In today's society, only pursue money and wealth and power and success. That's the standard with which we are driven to succeed by. Money, power, and position. It's no wonder we're miserable in that structure. That's not the way we're made to live. We're made to live in service, which is what living biblically is about. But we're going to get there. The pursuit of material goods, that's how we define who we are. The clothes you wear, the car you drive, the house you live in, the brands that you buy, the way you present yourself to the world, it's all driven around materialism. That's the standards of success and the way we are judged in this society. Is if you have certain things that make you exclusive or elite, then you're considered a success in today's world. And when you look at the most successful people in the world by today's standards, money and positions of power, most of them have done debaucherous, corrupt things to get to where they are. It's rare that you're going to find a successful person who did it in an honorable way, who did it in an honest way. Because the way that we live now in the capitalism The capitalistic society that we live within says money at all costs. Now, look, I love the free market. I'm about building and creating our own thing, building and creating wealth for ourselves, but only if it aligns with our spiritual nature, only if it enables us to be of service and to serve our Creator. If it does not, then I don't have an interest in it. And that's why I've always struggled in this society. Money has never been the most important thing for me, and I could never make myself do that. And frankly, I'm not very well off because of it at all, actually. But now, as I've been reading the Bible and understanding more, that's not what God intends for us. Now, that does not mean that we do not pursue wealth or we do not aim to be successful. We can use those things as a means to be of service, but only if God is at the center of our life. What ends up happening is we end up pursuing material success at any cost necessary. So we are willing to trample on anyone who gets in our way. So the idea of being of service to other people is weakness in this society. Why would we do that when the only standard is money and success and positions of power? And getting looked at and recognized as someone successful. Being of service and being kind and caring for people in need and our neighbors and people around us doesn't fit into that model. It actually hinders our ability to succeed in a society built like this. It encourages behavior to where we're degrading other people, we're degrading ourselves, only with the aim to be more material, better off. But in the process, we surrender our souls. That's not a cost I'm willing to pay, and you shouldn't be willing to pay it either. Because if you're living with God at the center of your life, it will be absolutely detrimental to your well-being to live that way. I've learned that the hard way. I've tried to fit into this model for decades. I'm almost 40. I'll be 40 next year. I haven't found success or fulfillment pursuing solely money and positions of power. It's detrimental to people who are God-centered. It's just the way it is, and that's the way we were made. Another component of it is it's based on external looks and appearances and how we appear to the world, not how we actually are, not how we are in our hearts, not how we are in our minds, our thoughts, the way God sees us, the way God knows us to be, but how we appear to the world. So we can appear virtuous. We can appear certain ways. We can look certain ways. We can have the material things that present these ideas of success. But it's all external. There's no internal state whatsoever. Again, the internal component of existence is a hindrance in a model that only pursues materialism and money. It's a hindrance. Having emotional intelligence, having empathy, having connection to your fellow humans, having connection to nature and the earth, having connection to anything other than success and money is a hindrance in this model. So we have to change that. We have to live differently. Because it's easy to put on appearances and look a certain way and model certain behavior and dress a certain way and wear your makeup a certain way or get surgeries to look a certain way, to live in a certain area, to drive a certain car. None of that has anything to do with the quality of your character and how you live your life by God's standards. None of that. If the only standard is material wealth, who cares about any of those other things? They're irrelevant. And we're suffering because of it. We are suffering because of it. By living this way, it destroys our souls, destroys who we are, destroys our well-being, it destroys our mental peace, it destroys the fulfillment that the world offers us, that God offers us, the opportunity to be of service. It destroys all of that. That's why so many of us struggle. There's a lot of things that are happening in the world: technology, the internet, social media, video games, porn, shopping, addictions, drugs, alcohol, gambling, all of those things. There's all kinds of things that hinder our well-being. All that is possible because we're pursuing solely materialistic means. And we're removing our soul from the equation. We are negating our spiritual nature. That's why we're depressed. All those things are just symptoms. They've been created from our spiritual neglect that we've been doing for centuries at this point. And it's no wonder we are where we are. We can change it though. We have the power to change it. That's the beauty of this. but is getting away from this modern, material-focused form of success, which moves us into God's standard of success. These standards of success are inner qualities, character-driven. The quality of your thoughts, the quality of your emotions, the quality of your mind, the way you treat other people, the way you think about other people, the things you say to other people, the way you interact with them. Are you living to be kind, to be of service, to help other people, to uplift them? This is the standard with which God calls us to act from. To be of service. There's no higher calling than to live a life oriented towards service to others and to helping others. That's where we find our fulfillment. And there are an infinite number of ways that we can succeed in serving others. If you're a doctor, bring God into your practice. If you're a lawyer, bring God into your practice. It does not matter. If you flip burgers at McDonald's, you can be of service. You can be kind. It does not matter. It's the quality in the way we move in the world, the inner qualities that define God's standards of success. Those inner qualities, the desire to be of service, to help others, to help those in need, to help those who are not as fortunate as we are, that takes sacrifice, that takes commitment and discipline. That means we have to do things that often make us uncomfortable. That means we may have to give up things that bring us comfort to help those in need. So it requires that we give up something to give to another. That's not the same in that materialistic driven way of living. So when we look from an inner quality perspective, when we move from an inner quality, that is living by the standards with which God intended for us. And we're going to struggle until we do that. It's no wonder that we're so a mess right now as a nation, as a country, as a world. So those inner qualities, the quality of our thoughts, the quality of our emotions, our heart, the inner world that we're experiencing is going to be a reflection and an indicator of how we're living. Are we living in alignment with God's vision and what He has in mind for us, which is built around being of service? And that starts with serving our Creator first and foremost. Not everyone's going to be a preacher. Not everyone's going to do that. We can serve our Creator in an infinite number of ways. And that's the intention that He has for us, is that we bring Him into our life, into the world, in all the things that we're doing. That we bring a godly standard to everything that we do. That we make the choice to decide, I'm not going to prioritize money, success, and wealth above everything, including my Creator. I will do those things in an honorable way, and I will put service to others as the highest calling for me. And I will do my best and lean into our Creator to allow Him to lead us and lead us in the way that we serve others. That is the way that we live by God's standards. We allow Him to lead our life, and we let Him dictate the service that we provide in the world. For me, it's this. I felt this calling forever, for years, and I've been too afraid to share my love for our God, for our Creator. In my mind, there's no higher purpose than to share the Word of God and to talk about God and the importance that He has in our life. And I've been shying away from that, afraid of being criticized, afraid of being judged, afraid of being weird, afraid of standing out. Now I can't imagine doing anything else and wanting to stand out more because of what I've learned and what I'm learning by reading this book and by praying and deepening that connection with our Creator. So we have to ensure that we're living by God's standards, by allowing Him to enter our life and let Him lead what that looks like for each of us. It's going to be different for each of us, but at the core of that is service and service to our fellow human beings. That's why living different is going to be hard. When you make service the number one thing in your life, when you make serving your Creator the number one thing in your life, it will be hard because the world around us says differently. Pursue money at all costs. Make as much money as you can. That's the only standard of success that we live by. That's all these false idols that we have as well too, are all these people that make money and have companies and are famous and all this. Those are false idols. It's one thing to be inspired by people and to look at what they do and be appreciative of that and say, wow, look what that person is doing with their God-given gifts and talents. That's a beautiful thing. But to worship them, to live, to want to be like them and live like them, that's when we get into false territory. That's when we get into false idols and we fall out of alignment with our Creator and we get into serving ourselves more than serving others. And that's the big key. If we're going to do this, if we're going to live different, you're going to stand out. And it doesn't mean that we don't care for ourselves. If we aren't cared for, if we don't have good self-care, then we can't serve at a high level. So having good health, having a good mind, a healthy mind, there's a lot of work that I've done, self-care that I've done that we have to do, right? That we have to learn and that we have to move forward on so that we can be of service. But we don't live solely for ourselves. There's a difference. God wants us to honor the temple and life that He has given us, but not only to serve ourselves. So by moving forward and taking care of ourselves, we enable us to serve others in a meaningful way. But that's the key, is we put service at the core of our life, not gratifying our own senses and the things that we desire above all else. And that's what we live in too. The world that we live in right now is so self-centered and so oriented to serving self. It's no wonder that so many of us are miserable. We're not made to live like this. We're made to be of service to others. We don't negate ourselves, but we care for ourselves so that we can go out and live our highest calling, live our highest life. That's what God intends for us. So rebel against this material approach to life. It is nonsense. It's not fulfilling. Money is a tool. Having a company is a tool. So if you are successful by the world standards, how can you bring God into your life? How can you bring God into all the things that you're doing? How can you bring God into your companies? How can you bring God into your family, into your friendships? It's going to be uncomfortable, man. Get used to it because God is calling us forward. Living in comfort and not offending people is not a part of living a Christian life, man. It's not. I made that mistake for far too long. And so I refuse to do that. And I think if we're going to live, we have to live the standard that we expect of other people. So we can't be hypocrites either. So we have to live this standard of life. And we're going to make people uncomfortable. It's going to be uncomfortable for us. But that's what it's about. That's why we're in the world. There is no greater calling than to bring this truth into the earth and be of service to our Creator, to live boldly for our Creator. Don't sacrifice your soul for the pursuit of material goods and wealth. So many of us do this. We degrade ourselves for the pursuit of money and success. We cannot do that. It's a terrible way to live. Hell exists now on earth when we live this way. Hell is a warning call for us, just like learning of sin, just as I was mentioning in my last episode. Hell is a warning. It's something that we create when we live out of alignment with our Creator. And the world that we're living in is way out of alignment with our Creator. So it's not surprising that so many of us are struggling. We have created hell on earth, and that is what happens when we negate our souls, we abandon our spirit, and we pursue material wealth. So don't degrade your soul simply for money and materialism. It will be detrimental. So many of us do this. I have done this for years. We have to draw a line and believe the things that we're doing matter, and we have to stand strong for our Creator. And that is one way that we do that, is we don't sacrifice our soul for the pursuit of material wealth and gain. We live honorable lives. We focus on the internal components of what God has given us, who we are, the quality of character that we can operate within by making service at the center of our life and allowing all the other things to take care of themselves, because they will. Again, that doesn't mean we throw away money, we waste money, we don't utilize material wealth and success for being of service. But it's being of service that matters most. If we negate that part, then we are failing our duty to our Creator. And that duty to our Creator is to pursue His vision and the life He envisions for us. And I can promise you, it's the highest and most beautiful life you could ever live is by honoring the life that God has intended for you. I used to think that it was wrong or scary or a lot of these things And as I've leaned more and more into this, I've come to realize that that is so foolish. There is no higher path that I can live than to live a life by honoring God in the life that He envisions for me. There is no greater way to live. So honor God and His vision for your life. Pursue Him. Call Him into your world. Pray to Him. Ask for that guidance. Ask for that perspective. Ask for that direction. Ask how you can be an instrument for our Creator to do good in the world, so that His will may be manifest in our planet. In these times now, we need it so much. We are the vehicles for which our Creator pours into the earth. Without us, it doesn't stick, right? That's what He intends for us. We are the vehicles with which Spirit can move into the earth. And it's our duty to look after the planet, to be good stewards of the earth. That is what God has intended for us. It is such a beautiful inheritance that is waiting for us. All we must do is reclaim it. And the final thing I want to talk about before we wrap this episode is live with courage, knowing that God is with you. We are never alone. We are never alone. God is always with us. He weathers our storms. He empowers us. He shows us things. He teaches us how to live. He guides us along this path. There is no greater way and no greater thing to have than God's love and courage. So have courage in your life, knowing that He is with you. He is in you, literally in all of us, awaiting us to open our hearts to Him. That is the beauty of it. There's so much peace and courage that comes from that, and it's only something you can experience. No one can give it to you. You can know it, but that is all. It is not something that can be transferred to you. It is experienced. It is living, and it's within all of us, waiting there. But we have to awaken it. We have to open to it, and that's the beautiful thing about it. So follow the Lord and find peace. Follow our God and find courage. Follow our Creator and find strength in your life now, because there's so much peace and power that comes from that. We are not intended to be these meek and small, pathetically passive beings. We are called into the world to be strong and courageous and forthright with our belief and our faith in our God. That is what makes us stand apart from the rest of humanity. That's what makes us God's people, as that we live with Him at the center of our life. There is no greater calling. Because the world and its materialism, the world that is ran by Satan and his minions, that's the world that we live within. This is a fallen world. Will do everything it can to shake that peace from you. Will do everything it can to deny God's existence and separate you from our Creator. That is the intention of this world, is to pull us further and further away from our spiritual nature. That is what creates pain and suffering. That is where hell exists, is here on earth within us when we live that way. It's not some future thing. That's the deception. It's now when we don't live right, when we live out of alignment with our Creator. So finding that peace and that inner courage, knowing that the world seeks to destroy that view, that peace, that courage, when we step away from our Creator. Because the ultimate fulfillment comes in service. That is the ultimate fulfillment, in service to our Creator and the plans and path that He has laid for us. But we always have a choice. That's what makes it special. We are not forced to do any of this. We can deny God's existence, we can deny His call, and we can live selfishly. But there is consequences for that. And it's suffering, and it's pain, and it's misery. Because there's so much suffering and pain and misery in the world. And people that live that way can only go out and experience it themselves and inflict it upon other people. That's how we live backward. That's how people get caught up in all the materialism in a fallen world, is we go out and we live that way, and then we mistreat ourselves, we mistreat other people, and we perpetuate suffering and pain in the world. That is not what God intends for us. So we have to live with courage and find His standard of living and live true to that, and let go of this pursuit of endless materialism and money at all costs, because it's killing us. All right, y'all. That's all I got for today's episode. I'm excited to continue on this. I know that not all of you are going to stick around, but I really am appreciative of those of you that have and that like this, and hopefully you're enjoying this new vibe. We've been reading some very interesting books, which I think you all will find helpful, and learning about the underbelly of the world that we're living within, because it's not all rainbows and peaches, man, or whatever the saying is, rainbows and roses. I don't know, whatever the saying is. But anyway, that's all I got for this episode. Till next time, y'all.